Hello, and welcome to the July edition of the Cinetopia radio show and podcast. I'm Amanda Rogers, and this month I'm joined by longtime Cinetopia contributors Jim Ross from Take One Magazine and Garry Arnot from Cinema Perspective. On this month's show, we're looking ahead to the Edinburgh International Film Festival 2026, discussing some of the films we're most excited to see. We'll also be reviewing 3 recent releases: The Invite, Blue Heron, and Rosebush Pruning. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe wherever you're listening, and visit Cinetopia.co.uk for our latest film reviews, festival coverage, events, and podcasts, and discover Cinetopia Connect, Cinetopia's free platform connecting the independent film community. Thanks so much for listening. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the July edition of the Cinetopia radio show and podcast. I'm here with 2 regulars, but a regular from the distant past of Cinetopia radio, Jim.
A lapsed
Ross.
regular.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I was telling you before we started recording, slowly melting in the southeast of England, but, I haven't completely disintegrated, and I've got lots of fans in the house, so doing all right.
That's great. And Garry, back with Garry this month. How are you doing, Garry?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, it's been a few months since I've been on, just enjoying World Cup summer and fitting films in between when I can. So excited to talk about some cinema today.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just all talking about the World Cup a bit because that's I'm currently in Miami, so I've been World Cup adjacent. Unfortunately, not going to this to the things, but it's been fun to watch that. But I'm also been hanging out in cool AC of the cinemas of Miami, which has some really interesting cinemas, and saw some of these films that we're about to talk about as well. But let's just quickly talk. I think, Garry, did you go to the opening for the EIFF program announcement, or have you been paying attention to what the Edinburgh International Film Festival is going to show this year?
Yes, I didn't make it to the launch because it was like mid morning during the week, but yeah, I've been across the updates and I've got a program with me, so yeah, looking forward to it. I've actually got some annual leave to use. It lines up. It feels like the last couple of years I've kind of always had some trip that's been getting in the way of being able to do the full festival. But this year I'm excited because I think I'll be able to do the full week. See if I can try and see as much as I can, and it looks like another good program. So yeah, excited.
Yeah, I have to say I called the opening film. I knew it was going to be in the festival. I just knew because it's Louis Paxton. We actually interviewed Louis Paxton on the show over the years for some of his short films. But Louis Paxton's first debuted feature, The Incomer, I think is what it's called. Is that correct?
Yep.
And that played at Sundance this year, or earlier this year, and won an award as well. And I was just imagining that would be in the program because Edinburgh does sort of lean on a little bit of, the last few years is like leans on some of the programming from Sundance. We get to see some of their really strong films that came out of that as part of like a part of their program. So I'm excited about that, and I hope that that does really well. Yeah, I'm also excited to see Douglas Gordon by Douglas Gordon. It's a local filmmaking crew who made this film. So people we know quite well, Sonia Henrici and Finlay Pretzel, who made the film Time Trial a few years ago, documentary filmmakers, and an editor I know quite well as well, who's incredible. So this film premiered originally at Berlinale, so it's really nice to see it as part of the program this season here at the Edinburgh International Film Festival. Also, big like Greg Araki that we're going to be talking about Olivia Wilde, but that film I think is showing up at as part of the program as well. So, any other ones that you are excited to see? Either one of you?
I'm not really across the program. There was something that popped up. I think it might have been the Incomer, though, to be honest. I've kind of lost track of it.
Well, we did quite well. Like Scotland did quite well in the Sundance program. I think they had at least three Scottish films, and all of them have kind of come out, except The Incomer, which was the one that which is coming out now. But Gary, how about you?
Yeah, there's a couple there that have caught my eye. There's one that seems to be getting a lot of festival hype called Extra Geography. And
Mm.
that's part of the program. It's a coming of age comedy. Um, and then also I've noticed that Nicholas Winden Refn is back. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, there's one called Her Private Hell, which I believe got booed at Cannes. So that'll be a great one to see. Um,
I can't.
yeah,
They're
yes.
not booing something, they're giving something a standing ovation. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think yeah, I don't know if this one got a
A
standing booze.
standing boo.
Yeah, but yeah, I love him or loathe him. I'm always interested to see what Nicholas Winden Refn's up to, and it feels like it's been a few years since he's done a feature film because he's been kind of working in TV for a bit. So yeah, and this one stars Sophie Thatcher from Yellow Jackets, who's been really good the last couple of years. She was in Heretic with Hugh Grant couple last year. So yeah, looking forward to seeing that. And yeah, can't not mention the big train spotting celebration that's happening. I felt like I was a little bit train spotted out over the last couple of years. It feels like every year there's a anniversary of something or other, and Irvin Welsh is around with another film about Irvin Welsh. But this year, in fairness, it is 30 years since the film was released, so they're doing a big anniversary bash for it as part of the festival, and they're holding it at Leith Theatre, which is pretty cool.
No, yeah, I
Um,
saw that.
yeah, so yeah, I'll get my train spotting hat back on for that, I guess. And yeah, and Ewan McGregor is going to be in town doing a in conversation event, so I imagine he'll be around for the train spotting partying as well. So
You know, Cinetopia and Cinescapes had quite a lot. We enjoyed doing the 25th anniversary, so I can't believe it's been 5 years already,
yeah,
since then. So it's great to see Lee Theater coming back and doing stuff. So I'm really, really happy about that. You know, Train Spotting. I also called it because I knew it would be the third. So there's the 30th anniversary, but also there's a big program with BFI right now around called Rip It Up, and it's nationwide sort of conversation around subculture and youth films, and Train Spotting is kind of one of its like primary ones. So I was like, of course, you know, Edinburgh International Film Festival is going to have to do something because the chairman of the board is, you know, is Andrew McDonald. So you would imagine that, and he kind of does bring in all the people that you know him to work with, which obviously like his big huge claim to fame was Train Spotting. So I full on expected um that to happen. I know they have done a screening. I used to work at Lee Theater actually, and I know they have done a screening at Lee Theater years ago when they were getting some money to kind of bring back the theater and stuff like that, and they ran
yeah,
a program. So it's great for it to be there. It's a absolutely stunning building, and you know, yeah, obviously Train Spotting is so highly connected with Leith, but also with Edinburgh. So it makes sense.
yeah.
And yeah, it is exciting to see them all come back as well.
Yes, because yeah, I think I thought that it was going to be the usual suspects of people that are around quite a bit, like Irvin Welsh and Ewan Brenner, and yeah, Kelly MacDonald's been spending a bit of time in Edinburgh lately as well because she's
Oh,
been
really?
filming Department Q. Um, so yeah, I was a bit surprised that Ewan McGregor is gonna be back for it. Yeah, the in conversation events. I think they've got some big names this year. Kenneth Branagh's doing one as
Mhm.
well, and Bruce Dern as well. So some interesting ones, and Ken Burns as well, the director. He's doing an in conversation event.
Wait, Ken Burns, the documentary
Yeah,
filmmaker?
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, you don't know this, Gary, but that's not an not one of my faves. So
No? Okay.
I will be avoiding that in
Okay.
conversation.
I'm not really across his work, to be honest, but I thought it
I
might have
don't
interested you with your documentary
I
leaning.
don't think she has one, but if Sophia Coppola's got a film at this festival, just keep a lid on it, Gary.
I would
All right?
see I
Don't
would see
mention it.
Sophia Coppola over Ken Burns. Fact is, I've actually seen Ken Burns speak, and that is why I never want to see him speak again. But there's internal documentary frustration of anyone who's tried to get funding in America. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people who do like Ken Burns, hence the conversation in
Yeah.
conversation. But he really does take like all the money and all the topics in the US. But yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of Ken Burns in general.
I'm sure there's people who like him. I think he's a financial leech, and I hate his work.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's always Ken Burns is jazz. No, jazz didn't happen because of you, Ken Burns. It's all it drives me nuts.
That's fine. I'll avoid that one as well.
No, 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 you can. He'll just tell you like how history is. That's the problem. He's like he knows history, American history, you know what I mean? So like it's just I went to like a talk in New York and I was like, "Oh my God, does this guy so full of himself?" And the other thing is that I'll leave it at this, but there back in the day when Apple started creating like iMovie editing
Mhm.
software, they would call this thing the Ken Burns effect when things
Oh, yeah,
would
I've heard of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so someone in the thing was like, "Did you really create the Ken Burns effect?" You know what I
What
mean?
what
Like because he
what was the
uses
Ken
it
Burns
so
effect?
much. It's a slight push on a still image. So most of his films are about the Civil War. So it's just archive shots nonstop. But sometimes he like pushes into them because that's it's more emotive with the music and stuff.
Right.
These cameras, they back in the day when they didn't have software to do this stuff, they would have a camera on a I've seen them, but like they'll have a camera on a stand and it'll push in.
Yeah, because they'll do that thing that Disney used to do to get like parallax
Yeah.
in animation.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
So
mhm.
it's all like been in the biz since the 60s, right? And if you've seen a
Mhm.
documentary like pre-19 like 80 before like Ken Burns, it happened, but Apple thought it would be a good idea to call it the Ken Burns effect because he's everybody knows Ken Burns and he literally took it. Yeah, I created this.
Oh god.
Well, especially given what I did, like it's the same thing as that Disney parallax thing, which has been around since like 1940 or something. So like,
No, it's a
anyway,
little anyway.
yeah.
That being said, I do really find that in conversations quite good at the Edinburgh International Film Festival since this kind of new iteration. I really enjoyed them and I think they are kind of they're both like, industry focused but also public focused as well. So like bringing in big names but also having really pretty good interesting conversations like Thelma Schumacher and Alex Garland and stuff. So and I think they're trying something new as well. They're creating this kind of like industry like conversation day with the BFI or something I saw. So like I think they're
Yep.
continuing to evolve the industry program, so I like to see how that is growing over time. So overall, it's like, it's something things I expected, things I didn't expect, things I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing. If even if it's slightly remotely, but we'll see. And I know Gary
Yeah.
will be there and Mariana will be there. So I'm sure a team from Cinetopia will be covering the festival this year. So we're looking forward to that. But yeah, check out the whole program on their website and we will get to what's in the cinemas currently when we come back. The invite. This is gonna be good. This is gonna be fun. I feel like we're all gonna like this one though. I was hoping Jim to get you on one that we like you absolutely hated the film and I loved it or something like that. You know what I mean? We've had some epic battles, I feel like, over the years.
I've said this on the show before, but I'll say it again. I think my favorite one I did on here was still Joker because I hated it,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
Luca really liked it, and you're just in the middle going, guys, it's not that deep. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I play referee.
come in.
Nice to see you.
We are so happy you're here.
Are we expecting people? Can we put curtains on this window? I don't like how they can see into our apartment. This shirt, it's nice. It looks really good on you.
Well, you could tell me that once in a while.
Take them off?
I don't give a fuck if you take your shoes off.
For me, no gluten, no dairy, no meat, no sugar.
Oh, no.
There's something I've been wanting to talk to you about.
We also have something we wanted to talk to you about.
You can ring my bell.
We feel a very strong connection with you guys.
That is so nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, say thank you, Joe.
Thank
Say
you. Very flattering.
All right, and moving on to what's out in the cinema currently, we're going to talk about the big film that came out of Sundance. There was a big fight over, I guess, getting the rights. A24 got it. It's The Invite. It's Olivia Wilde's latest film. And Jim, tell us a bit about.
Yeah, so it's a chamber piece, as you'd refer to. It all takes place inside one apartment where a couple played by Olivia Wilde, who, as you just mentioned there, is directing as well, and Seth Rogen are hosting their upstairs neighbors for an evening for, like, some drinks and some food. And the film opens with Olivia Wilde's character off kind of like, doing the sort of like the bourgeois shopping experience, buying, prosciutto or hamon. We'll come back to that. Why cheese and various different bits of food, while Seth Rogen kind of, pedals home on his commute on his folding bike, which he hates, and gets back. And they have a big argument about whether the neighbor should come over. He finds them a bit weird. And the neighbors are played by Ed Norton and Penelope Cruz. So they come over and drama ensues, basically. I think if you've seen the trailer for this film, it probably won't come as a surprise to you. And I would say as a spoiler that obviously the neighbors are a bit kooky. There's a bit of sexual tension here. There's a bit of tension between Olivia Wilde and Seth Rogen, and events play out, right? It kind of plays out in almost real time, basically, I would say. And I'd say it takes place entirely in this apartment that they've renovated recently. And the kind of kicking off point is they have caused a lot of noise with the renovation of the apartment, but they are also aware of the fact, and Seth Rogen is particularly annoyed by the fact, that they have heard extremely loud sex from upstairs. So that's kind of like the tension that underscores the kicking off point for the film. And then it plays out, just the four of them. The dynamics move around and interactions change and the sort of thing, and the evening plays out, basically.
Yeah, and what did you guys both think about the film?
I love this. It's right up my street in terms of the way that it was made. Like I love a chamber piece, as Jim put it, and I think Olivia Wilde uses the space really well. I think it's really well edited, and it's got stylishness to it that doesn't make it feel like it was a play adapted for the screen or whatever. There's a real kind of movement to it, even though they're all mostly within sort of 2 or 3 rooms throughout.
I did enjoy your quick clarification there, Gary. This is right up my street in terms of how it's made, just in case.
Yes. Less of the subject matter. There's no
subject matter.
There's no pineapple outside of my door. But I think there's 4 actors that I really enjoy, and I feel like they're all on the top of their game here. Like I know Seth Rogen's been playing the kind of the self-deprecating sort of layabout stoner for best part of 20 years, but it feels like this has got a bit more depth to it. There's a lot of like built up resentments in his character, which comes out in the form of bickering with his wife, but he's also so funny in it. I think it's the films it's been compared a lot to Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Mhm.
I guess in terms of the narrative, but yeah, I'd noticed it was it's dedicated to Diane Keaton. At the end,
Yeah.
there's a little message for the late Diane Keaton, and I think there is a Woody Allen-esque style to the way that the film's made, which I really enjoyed. Yeah, no notes on this. It feels like it's like a big 5 stars and thumbs up from me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was like almost brought to tears touched with that little Diane Keaton reference. It really it probably felt why I love this film so much is how much I love Diane Keaton's work and like and her the films that she's been in, including the Woody Allen films. But I think it felt like such a really nice touch to sort of the nod of inspiration and whatnot. What an absolute incredible cast of characters. I mean, when you think about and I think in the last the last film the last podcast we talked about backrooms, and there was comment that they weren't as because they were so famous that you kind of fell into that, and I disagreed, but I think in this case because we know these actors so well and these kinds of archetypes of how we know them from the work that they've done, it just works really well with them as in these roles, and I think that's kind of what's so masterful about it.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I have a lot to say. I loved this. I thought it was fantastic. It was in terms of kind of humor and emotional tenor it's going for. It was really I really connected with it. What I will say is I think it's cast perfectly, right? Because you've got the different personalities and like Guy, you mentioned the kind of like Rogan's archetypal sort of role he's played and how this has a bit more depth to it. And it's almost like kind of like he's taking those previous characters and it's like what what happens to this guy when he's like an emotionally burnt out father who's now in middle age, right? What does that guy seem like and where does he place his resentments and this or and he's incredibly funny in this, and I have a lot of time for Seth Rogen. I think sort of like I think he's quite underrated as an actor actually,
Mhm.
like just in general. He's extremely funny, but I think it really shows here kind of like the range he can actually have. Olivia Wilde is superb here. I mean, like she's a very good actor in her own right, and I think this really does cement that she's a good director as well, right? I do hasten to point out I've not seen Don't Worry, Darling, her previous film, but
Yeah.
I was a big fan of Booksmart, right? And I think th- Booksmart was good, right? I think it was maybe a bit overblown how good it was, but I did think it was good. This, however, it has an emotional agility to it, is the way I would describe it, that is kind of incredible. Like it goes between very heartfelt and comedic to the point of farce, and it does it without it feeling like a kind of like a handbrake turn in how the film is going about it. And a lot of that is the performances, the two I've just mentioned. Penelope Cruz is also excellent, and Ed Norton, I think in particular, is very good because he brings that sort of like this ridiculous intensity that I think he's sometimes associated with, but then undercuts it in the way that I didn't think that much of the Knives Out sequel he was in, but it did show that he had, good comedic ability. I honestly think this is absolutely superb. I think the score is excellent. I think it's really on point, and I think the key thing is all the technical bits work with it, right? I think this is edited extremely well, right? And that is a huge part, I think, of what you mentioned, Gary, about it not fit. Because this is a common thing with this sort of setup, right? You can feel very stagey is the word. There's a lot of staginess. Really didn't feel it in this one at all. And I think some of that is also down to the look. I think it was shot on 35 millimeter. The
Yeah.
cinematographer, what I know him mainly from was he also shot The Last Black Man, San Francisco, which is another film that I thought was really great from a number of years back. He's also worked on The Studio, which is
Mm.
the series that Seth Rogen's been doing on Apple TV, which had an episode that Olivia Wilde was in, which also looks way better than I would expect that type of show to look, basically. Um, I really have nearly a bad word to say about this. And it's one thing I will say about the film that's not about the film itself, but just the experience. I went to see this in a more or less sold out cinema, and everybody around me was laughing at the same points I were, and it's really good to see something that gets that sort of collective experience in the cinema that's not a sort of overblown superhero film or something that is a kind of like lowbrow comedy. Don't get me wrong, love a lowbrow comedy from time to time, but it is quite good to see this sort of film connect with audiences when they get in their seats and watch it. I'm kind of a guy, no notes. I thought it was excellent. Really
Yeah,
connected with it.
I had a similar experience in the cinema. Everyone was laughing, but it felt like very. It feels like a grown up film about like
Yeah.
grown up themes and people in middle aged, and yeah, um, yeah, he kind of it's a film that people are going to go and see it whether they're huge film fans or not. It's a film for film lovers, but then also that's got any four of the names in it could sell a film on their own as well. So to have all four of them together, yeah, I think it's going to do really really well. And yeah, touching upon what you said, Jim, about the tonal balance in this film is like crazily good. It can be laugh out loud funny, like people bending over in their seats laughing at it, but
Mhm.
then it does kind of there's is very moving as well towards the final act. Um, yeah, feel like the tonal balance is spot on, and that's down to, I mean, obviously the script's from Will McCormack and Rashida Jones, and the script's excellent, but I also
Mhm.
think like the execution of the script by Olivia Wilde in terms of the pacing and the rhythm of it, along with the score, which I also loved, is just spot on. I feel like
Yeah.
for me.
I think one of the things that I watched a lot of interviews that they did around this is that they were quite collaborative in terms of bringing what they wanted to bring into to the films. As you mentioned, Penelope Cruz's character, she's fantastic, and she's kind of modeled after this sort of famous sex therapist Esther Perel, which if you kind of know the like podcast world or whatever, like is often on these sort of about relationships. So they sort of modeled her character after that and has some of these like incredible wonderful like lines out of that, and then and even Olivia Wilde wasn't supposed to be in it, but eventually did come in it and brought like her own sort of life story into the I feel like there's a subgenre of the breakup film now, films that pretty well-known directors or actors like
Yeah.
make about their breakup, like Marriage Story comes
Marriage
to
Story,
mind.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna put Sofia Coppola in here because the film I probably like the most out of Sofia Coppola is Lost in Translation, but her mix with Her, which by far is up to me Spike Jonze's best film and one of my favorite films.
Mhm.
They kind of are taking out their very public breakup onto their craft and then making an amazing film. I just watched Marriage Story a week or two
Yeah.
ago, and I brought it back. I was like, this is a really great film. And like I remember when we reviewed it before, and I think this is her breakup film, Olivia Wilde's breakup film. And but then with this collaborative kind of aspect, because she didn't write the screenplay, it is based on a previous play and film and stuff like that, really put her heart and soul into the film in a way, and just shows what an excellent director she is, what we should be expecting to see more of. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as well as usually it's a creative outlet that musicians would get. Like you hear about, like, I don't know, Taylor Swift did an album about a breakup, or Lily Allen this year has done a very big album about a breakdown
Yeah.
of a marriage. Um, and like Adele's kind of made a career out of that as well. Um, and yeah, I think with Olivia Wilde's last film, Don't Worry Darling, all the off all the off screen stuff almost like overshadowed the film
Yeah.
in a way. Which I think I was in the minority. I like Don't Worry Darling. So I think she's I thought it was a good film, but I think it was overshadowed by all that controversy around like the Spitgate and the whole like Venice Film Festival fiasco that was going on at the time. Um, but yeah, this definitely shows that she's got a lot of talent as a director, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a weird, like, a soft thing for Harry Styles, so I also watched the film and also was very aware of the, the drama around it. But I mean, I think what was interesting is that, as Jim, you said, Booksmart, like, kind of blew everybody away. We didn't know Olivia Wilde
Mm.
was gonna be this kind of director, and then Don't Worry, Darling was 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, nobody kind of really, got behind it. And then this one sort of popped up, and they're all three they feel like different films. I mean, they're definitely dealing with a female perspective in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
But I think that it shows the range that, Olivia Wilde has. And unfortunately, I think a lot of what you were just saying about the previous film is like it was too wrapped up in like her personal life and like the drama of these like celebrities and I think she was going through this breakup with Jason Sudeikis as well at the time. So it was mired in all of that, when with this it's really truly at least about, as much as it can be, right, about the art, like, and about these characters and
Yeah.
about these actors who are really incredible actors, like, and to see all four of them kind of equally playing off of each other. I mean, I don't think there was one that didn't work better or worse, you know? I think they all kind of
Mm.
came to the table.
Well, I think the thing that's really great about it is the fact that what makes this work is not just the performances, right? And you can choose any one individual performance, and I think the actor in question has done really well. But I think what's really good about the film, and I think brings some depth to it, right? Because it's definitely a funny film, right? There were a number of moments that I laughed out loud at, and a lot of people around me were as well. The comedic timing and kind of the pacing of it is superb. There is interesting and kind of like emotionally authentic ideas in here as well, right? And I think one way in which those performances play off each other is something it captures really well, I think, is the idea that kind of adult relationships need to be a constant act of renewal, right? And you have that contrast between the couples, right? Because you have Seth Rogen and Olivia Wilde couple. They have a daughter who's away for kind of a sleepover that evening, and you know from the off that kind of like there's resentment there, and they're just a bit tired and beaten down by both themselves, each other, the world. They're just a bit tired, and then you contrast that against Ed Norton, Penelope Cruz, where it's quite a new relationship. There's a revelation later that kind of like gets across the idea of one of them kind of has, almost to a kind of literal extent undergone this act of renewal. And that contrast is really great. And that doesn't mean that it shows one is better than the other, right? It bounces back and forth. And I think the nuance it manages to capture across those four characters um is really incredible, actually. And there's a lot more kind of like self-serious films who do not display this sort of ability to move between different registers and don't capture that sort of idea in an engaging way. So to see something that has this comedic edge to it and wants to poke a bit of fun at some of these ideas as well is really interesting, and it does it superbly. So and the individual performances are great, but I think I just really goes back to guys what or I can't remember which one of you mentioned the script. I think the script is really great because it's managed to pitch these characters in a way that allows to kind of like bring out the edges of this and bounce them around each other and really kind of heightens everything involved. I think it's just great work by everybody involved, really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I always feel like the main characters, the Joe and Angela, right,
Yeah.
are kind of like your everyday couple, right? Like
Mhm.
you go through in some phase in your life, right? So like, it's not always perfect or something, or maybe in this case, and the Pina and Hawk are like two idealized, if you will, or
Mhm.
to a certain point, it's that's the comical element. But then there's a point where you see the fracture in that situation as well, and it's
Mhm.
not so effective. That's why it just feels again this like sort of complex thing. And then I also think about Richard Linklater, and so we were talking about 70s films and Diane Keaton and Woody Allen, but also I'm thinking about like 90s films and as well. and where, you see the before trilogy where like they kind of have again this input. So where like I know Penelope Cruz was not only kind of modeling herself off of Esther Perel, and Esther Perel was a she was a consultant on this, but like she has this fascination with medical stuff, like medical journals, and she reads them at night or something. And she's inputted this whole scene about like menopause or is it perimenopause related to like olives, and it's so like
Yeah.
magical done, like in a way that like everyone knows probably in your audience is really laughing, but just you would never expect anyone to be able to pull that off at a dinner party like that. But she did, and it was just perfect, like a perfect moment of cinema.
Yeah, I think just another point to mention is I think the original film it's called the people upstairs, the neighbors upstairs, a Spanish film, and it spawned a whole host of remakes all around Europe and all around the world. So this is, I guess, the Hollywoodized American version of that story, and yeah, and I like that, like you were saying, it's kind of edging towards, I guess, like people leveled some criticism at Marriage Story that you mentioned and talking about it being, the problems of rich white people, and I guess like there's an element of that in this, like they're so beaten down and down about life, but they're living in San Francisco, which is like the most expensive city to live in the world. But I think the way that it's written, there's a richness to it that you can relate to. You can relate to every character in it, and then even like the characters that they introduced with Pina and Hawk are a bit more like elevated or heightened, and they seem quite fanciful in comparison to the more realized main couple. But yeah, there's definitely like a relatability to all four characters, and that's what makes it work, I guess. And it's the dynamic between the four of them. It's so good to
Well,
watch.
yeah, I suppose if it feels in that it's definitely emulating films that like Mike Nichols films we've mentioned, like these certain genres, and then I've sort of said the breakup film. But I do think I don't want to get too much into this because I don't know if you guys saw After the Hunt, but After the Hunt was so much trying to be like a Woody Allen film ad nauseum, right? And then this one is got these sort of little bit of hints of films, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, or but it is its own unique, piece of in a very specific time. Like apart from like as you said, being literally taken from an adaptation of a previous work.
Yeah, I'd be interested to actually see some of the other versions of it from around the world and see the same story played out with, I guess, with some identity from the country that it's set in.
The Office of sorts.
Yes, yeah. So somebody comparing this one, it's like basically it's become like the Spain's The Office that has been readapted in all these different countries. So yeah,
It
good on
definitely
them.
has an element. I mean, there are so many points in this film that are absolutely, like in the best way possible, absolutely excruciating. Like, and that's part of the whole kind of like the agility thing I mentioned, right? It goes between different things, including kind of like just the worst social embarrassment that you're living vicariously like imaginable. Yeah, yeah. It kind of runs the whole gamut, but it does it really well.
Yeah, I mean, I had high respect for all of those people. I think I maybe have a slight more respect for Seth Rogen in this, although I do like the studio a lot. So, I've been watching that show and I've been enjoying that. But all around, a fantastic film. My favorite so far this year, I think. Yeah, it's out in cinemas, so check it out.
Who was that?
Jason. He wanted to let us know that our son is dead on the front step. I told him not to worry. He will come back to life soon.
more things with Jeremy.
It feels like somehow I'm cursed. He doesn't want to listen to anybody.
Stop it. Talk to me. Hey, talk to me.
And how is he with his siblings?
He's very sweet. Have you ever heard about a family like this? Jeremy, look at me. Look at me, please.
Okay, so the next film we're going to review is Blue Heron. It is distributed by one of my favorite Scottish distributors, Conic, who picks up really fantastic films. And it's a feature debut from a Canadian filmmaker, Sophy Romvari. It's a intimate family drama that sort of mixes memory and documentary and a personal, like autobiographical story, which is set in Vancouver Island in like the 1990s, where you follow an 8-year-old who's named Sasha and her Hungarian parents and her family. She has 3 or 4 brothers. And her older brother, Jeremy, is going through a lot of mental health struggles. And really kind of you're watching this from her point of view a lot, but also seeing how her parents sort of deal with the mental health struggles of the older child. And then, it sort of morphs into sort of a modern day look of the older version of the main character, Sasha. So I'll leave it at there, and then we can talk a little bit about the nuance of this film. It premiered at Locarno, but it's currently out in the UK right now, and the US as well.
Yeah, and I think so when you said that The Invite was your favorite film of this year so far, it's one of mine. The reason I didn't agree with you there is because I think for me it's this, to be honest, right? I've really
Yeah.
it has like been away from this show for a while. I've really chosen the month to come back. I thought this was a brilliant film. I really thought this was excellent, and I think for a debut feature as well, which it is in Sophie Romvari's case, it's remarkable, right? Um, it starts off as kind of like I don't want to say standard family drama because it's not, and that undersells it. But it starts off in terms of kind of like its its narrative flow and how it's structured reasonably conventionally, I would say. It's when you get deeper into the film, it takes a turn in how it's conceptualizing Sasha, the young girl, right? Which I think is this is basically semi-autobiographical, right? Sasha's kind of, meant to represent Sophie Romvari herself a little bit in her experiences with her family, right? Because the parents in the film are Hungarian, right, and they've moved to Vancouver Island, and the challenges that her brother faces with his mental health, and then the impact it has on the family, and it completely kind of like recontextualizes how it's presenting it late in the film. I don't want to give too much away, right? But I can kind of like talk about films that it reminds me of. But I think this way of taking it really displays quite a remarkable ability, in my view, to take something which is very personal and very hard to put into words. This experience of not really understanding something as a kid and then revisiting it in adulthood. Where you're kind of like extrapolating from half memories of like overheard conversations that you didn't really understand at the time and things like that. It takes this very personal experience, it's very difficult to verbalize and put into words, and creates this cinematic collective experience around it, which is superb. Like I don't even really know how you come up with this stuff. I think a couple of films that I will mention that it did remind me of. I think Celine Sciamma's Petite Maman was one that came to mind for me, right? In terms of kind of like this developing an understanding of your parents' viewpoints and, your experiences as a kid and how that works. It comes at it from a different angle, right? Because that's kind of understanding your parents as a kid. This goes at it a different way, but there is some similarity there in terms of how it goes about it. I think After Sun is another one that comes up for me, and I think it's probably the most impressed I've been by a debut film since then,
Yeah,
to
I
be
know.
honest. There's a little bit of it actually, like Andrew Hayes' All of Us Strangers. There's a little bit of it there again in terms of it's a little bit different that one, but like there's some echoes there. But it, the way it develops its narrative and its story and the way characters interact is really remarkable. And I think some of the feelings and experiences that it teases out by doing that is really quite incredible, right? If you look at the setup, it seems like it could be a fairly standard family drama, and I would say for the opening part of it, it's kind of like that. It's not entirely, but that's kind of how it plays out. But it very quickly starts to become um, something a lot more interesting. And I think it's executed by and I think it looks great as well. I mean, it's got this kind of like slightly sun bleached effect to it, and there's ways that she frames people in landscapes and things that really kind of like heightens the emotions that I think she's trying to tease out. I really thought it was a remarkable thing. I thought it was really great.
Yeah, I thought it was great as well. Yeah, I think we both picked a good month to come back
Yeah.
and talk and kind of wax lyrical about these films. But yeah, I think what you said about memories and like it's almost shot like like someone remembering something. Like it manages to pull off this thing where there's a bit of fragmentation in it, and all these like it kind of reminded me of trying to remember childhood summers and
Yeah.
that feeling of what it's like to be a kid in the summer, where like your parents are busy, and especially if you've got siblings or as many siblings as Sasha does in
Mhm.
this, like you're not always your parents' number one priority. And I think it like captures like this like boredom of childhood a little bit and this curiosity. Um, and I guess the focus for her parents is the older brother, like you mentioned, Amanda, who's going through some experiencing some mental health issues. But yeah, like you say, there's a form change, I guess, without giving too much away, like later in the film, where, like you say, it completely recontextualizes in the same way that After Sun does. It's funny we're just like listed films. Don't want to just list films that it reminds me of, but yeah, there was one that played at Edinburgh Film Festival years ago called What Maisie Knew, and it was about a little girl who was being neglected by her parents that were divorcing, and the way that they kind of film it through the child's perspective, I thought was really interesting, and this kind of reminded me of that in a way. Not to say that Sasha's neglected in a kind of mean way, like her parents are loving, but you can see that her, especially the mum, you can see that the mum's really carrying the mental load of the family, I guess. Um, and meanwhile, the dad's kind of um trying to be a dad in his own way, but they've got their issues. But yeah, thought this it was really well made, like you said, Jim, and yeah, big fan of this one as well. What do you think of it, Amanda?
Yeah, I agree, and I didn't see the After Sun connection, but now that you mentioned it, I think, like, the way it was shot, and the both of you bring
Mm.
up the idea of, like, summer memories and how important that is in childhood, like, that is kind of like a seminal part of how you grow up, and but also related to the trauma of how you perceive or how you remember something
Mhm.
to how it is today. What I personally really liked, and I don't know, I think, because again, last month we were talking a little bit about, it brought me back to this, like, this film. Do you remember watching The Task, Jim? Or did you ever watch like, it was some it was this sit around and psychological, like, people, like, psychologists kind of talking, and it was
Mm.
like it
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Mhm.
and there
Yeah.
was this moment in this film that kind of really gets to the heart of kind of the mental health struggle, but also maybe how things, because it's rooted in a very specific time, like how perhaps things might have been looked at differently now, or something or whatever. And I thought it was a really interesting, sort of change of pace within the film, and I thought yeah, I don't know, it just brought it made me think a lot about you know about this filmmaker, but also this character's kind of process of memory, and in a way that I guess I wouldn't have otherwise. And it was very it was incredible just the way it looked, and but also I thought it kind of unpacked stuff in a way that was unique that I hadn't seen in a film yet.
Yeah. And I think and to bring some color to this, right? Because I think we can probably talk a little bit about the structure at the start without really going to the later part of it. There is a semi-autobiographical element here in that, like, we do see at the start of the film, we see an adult Sasha who is now a filmmaker kind of reflecting on her childhood, right? And thinking about the stuff that we are seeing in actually dramatically depicted in the film. And the way that the film has these things interact and, you know, cross over in terms of like how one informs the other later, it changes in a way, that interaction later on, and it's really kind of fascinating to see. It really could. I actually, and it's hard to say this without sort of like basically seeming a bit overblown, right? But I really think that this film, in the way that it goes about kind of going over how you recontextualize stuff from your childhood as an adult, and how you understand adults from your childhood differently as you age, or siblings and relatives, and as you come to realize that your memory of things may be imperfect, and thus the
Yeah.
emotions and things that you've derived from them might like be inaccurate, but are they inaccurate in a bad way or a good way? All these sort of things. I actually think it's really a demonstration of something that uniquely cinema can do, right? Because I think the thing
Yeah.
that's important here is that Sophie and there's a visual element to this, right? Because I can already hear people screaming, literature at me, books, right? And that's true, right? But there's a visual element to how it's done. I think the visuals inform how it's done. This is something it really there's something about the way it's brought together in terms of script, editing, the look of it, even the performances, right? We haven't really mentioned the performances, like the performance of young Sasha is really superb. It comes together in a way that I think really, I genuinely think maybe only cinema is capable of doing. And I think to see a filmmaker bring those elements together to really express something in a unique way is kind of really quite inspiring. Like, I really thought this was a superb film, and it does something which I've not seen. I've seen other films skirt around it, like we've mentioned a few, but like this is really its own take on it, and I think it does it in an absolutely fascinating way.
Yeah. As much as it's about like remembering, it's also like you say, kind of about perhaps misremembering, because
Yeah.
there was something I might this might be this might be misinformation in itself here, but I'm sure it's hearing that somebody had said if you're remembering something, your brain's not remembering when it happened. Your brain's just remembering the last time you remembered it. So
Yeah.
it's like over time, these memories are kind of gonna fade and fragment, or you might remember someone else's recollection of it if you've heard about
Mhm.
it, similar to that. And the film kind of touches upon that in the way that um, she's dealing with a trauma or a grief in a way for her childhood, or what she went through as a child, but she can't really remember why. And then this kind of translates it in a way and illustrates it in film in a really stunning, profound way, I think.
Yeah, certainly something I'm looking forward to. And speaking of semi-autobiographical, I think I read though that the filmmaker did make a documentary before about her family.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so there's these
Yeah.
kind of elements of that, and I also just love the like mixture. I mean, the in the film, she plays a documentary filmmaker, but I just love this mixture of playing with genre on both sides. So I love
Mhm.
documentaries that sort of play with narrative, but this one does it in from a narrative perspective and does it so well. So really, really captivating. Also, really, really long time ago, as a young child in the summer, went to Vancouver Island. So it did kind of bring back those memories as well. But I don't remember it much other than like, you know, there being lots of like whales and boats and stuff. Very beautiful. So anyway, Blue Heron is currently out. Check it out. We all loved it. Two of the best, at least so far, this year on this month's show. So for us, and check it out if you can.
People are roses. Families are rose bushes. Rose bushes need pruning. We all inherited lots of money after Mom died. We're all lazy, mediocre, vapid, egotists. All of us, except for my brother, Jack. Jack's different. Poor Jack. You love my brother, Emmy?
I do.
He's late.
Because he was with that girl, and I just can't bear the thought of it. And the clothes she wears are just awful.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to the family.
Okay, so our final film that we're going to talk about is Rosebush Pruning. I believe it came out originally at the Berlinale this year, which both Garry and I missed, I think. But watching these films, like I said, one Berlinale is coming out in the Edinburgh International Film Festival. I'm excited to see, and I'm always excited to see them come out in the cinema. So Garry, tell us about this film.
Yes. So Rosebush Pruning. It's directed by Karim Aïnouz. And it's about an American family that's relocated to Spain. The family dynamic, the narrative's kind of one of these like eat the rich satire narratives about this kind of despicable family that are close knit in a almost disturbing way, and the narrative kind of picks up where one of the brothers, played by Jamie Bell, is dating a musician, a guitarist, played by Elle Fanning, and he wants to introduce her to his dysfunctional family, let's say, and then one of the other brothers, who I guess is the central character because there's a bit of an internal monologue with him, played by Callum Turner. His name's Edward. He hatches a plan and ropes one of the other brothers in to carry it out. So it's this kind of tragicomic thriller, social satire, eat the rich piece, which I get it feels like it's been like a little bit over, but it's becoming like a bit overdone, the whole eat the rich, like rich people are terrible narrative. And in this, they're bad people, or flawed people, let's say. I will say, like, this one's coming out to a lot of bad reviews, and it's got similarly to The Invite. It's got an amazing cast. Like, they've got so many good people in there. It was obvious to me quite early on with the script. It's come as no surprise to people to see that the script is by the guy who wrote a lot of the early Yorgos Lanthimos films.
Yeah.
and so the dialogue kind of has that kind of odd cadence to it, this weird stilted delivery, and I think the cast are having a lot of fun with playing with that script, but I don't know if they're probably having more fun than the audience. Um, what I will say, it's shot really well. It's kind of got this like Mediterranean sheen to it. It's shot by Hélène Louvar, who's shot lots of amazing films over the last like 10, 20 years. So yeah, it looks really good, but I don't know if it's bringing anything new. I think with films like it's being compared to, I guess, Saltburn to an extent, and then Succession with this kind of sibling rivalries that are going on. It's kind of, yeah, Succession for sickos, I guess. But yeah, I don't know if it really brings much anything new. I don't know if it's got anything new to say about this kind of eat the rich movement that we've seen in recent years in cinema. But yeah, like it's entertaining for the performances. There's some good performances in there, and it looks good. But yeah, I just don't know if the story is really giving us anything new that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would agree. I like the cast itself got me really interested. You know, Callum Turner having just come off of like Rose of Nevada, which we've talked about and seen, and you know, and also his just personal marriage in Sicily, and the you know the Elle Fanning like having kind of this new sort of like with sentimental value and you know and whatnot, and then you know, even Pamela Anderson with her like new, you know, her new kind of indie career. I was very curious about this. Tracy Letts, like as the father as well, like how fantastic, right? So like all the actors really like are really visually attractive, interesting to watch, and like you said, it was shot very well. Like I love films with pools so much and like sort of that kind of culture and so I enjoyed almost like all the shots, but I totally like I just saw Dogtooth again, I think at the Cameo, and you know, like and forgot how like weirdly sick that film was. And but yeah, that one had like a purpose, you know, and I feel like this one was I do think it was like Mark Kermode who said it was like Eulanthus like light, but like I just didn't get the point of all the kind of you know, it's a Saltburn meets Dogtooth, right? You know, it's doing this shock value of like a family who, you know, is too incest literally, like, you know, like have
Yeah.
issues between each other, but for no real like reason to propel the story forward to me. Like I just you know, like I see the point with Dogtooth, right? Like I guess I get the like totally like not so like point, you know, with that. It's very the darkness is my point of that. And then with Saltburn, I actually really defend Saltburn. Like you know, like I like that film and I kind of get it. So there was a lot of like negativity towards that film, but I just don't have any way to defend this. I just didn't really like I kind of didn't even I wasn't even that into it, you know? Like I was a bit bored, if you will, like story-wise.
Yeah, I think story. It feels like it's maybe been a script that the guy. So it's it's loosely inspired by Marco Bellocchio's Fist in the Pocket story,
Yeah.
and it feels like it's maybe been a script that Filippo has made for Lanthimos to make, and then I don't know if Lanthimos has been too busy or he's not. I mean, he's made so many films, he needs a break, I think. And then I guess like the other director, Karim Aïnouz, who I've seen, he made that he made the film Firebrand last year with Jude Law playing Henry VIII,
Okay.
which I quite liked. And I think in this, similarly to that, he gets good performances out of the cast. Yeah, quite a starry cast, like you say. There's Tracy Letts, Pamela Anderson, Callum Turner, Elle Fanning, but also there's Riley Keough, who's a bit of
Yeah,
a kind
yeah.
of indie darling, plays the
Of course.
sister, and Lucas Cade, Lucas
Yeah,
Gage, sorry,
I know. I
who
know. I also very
I
interesting.
I actually really wish that he would get a leading role soon. I feel like it's coming because I always enjoy seeing him turning up, and he's mostly these kind of small supporting roles. And in
Yeah,
this, he's great as
he
well.
is great in
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's tricky because like you can kind of say that it is quite empty and it's not really got anything to say, and even the shots that it strives for, because of what we've seen in recent years, don't feel as shocking as they should. But at the same time, I maybe liked it a little more than you because I wouldn't say I enjoyed just being. I enjoyed the cinematography and I enjoyed being kind of in that twisted world for for an hour and a half. You wouldn't want to be in that world for much longer than this film lets you in. But yeah, I think there's kind of perverse fun to be had in it, and the performances. Um, Jamie Bell as well, who I've not even mentioned,
Yeah, no, you're right.
who's
That's a
always
very British connection there, like for sure.
yeah. But I think some of the sort of the plot devices in the narrative to drive the plot forward are pretty flimsy. Like there's this whole thing where one of the brothers can do a really good impersonation of the other brother, and then the kind of the whole narrative from a certain point hinges on that, which feels quite silly as an idea. But yeah, I think this one's gonna um it'll have its it'll have its strange fans, I guess, but I think for the most part, people aren't really gonna um warm to this. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think yeah,
I wish I could be as like yeah, that I would like to give it time and maybe I would think differently because I wanted to like I mean literally the cast and like the look of it like is totally my kind of film. But I just don't I just thought it was terrible. Like it was terrible. And I don't know what else to say, you know? Like I just didn't get it. Like, you know, I mean I love art like the architecture and the people and their outfits. And I can watch films like, you know, like A Bigger Splash and Challengers and you know all these films with like that are all about just sort of style and architecture and great cinematography, you know, and just like live in those worlds. But this one just didn't and I don't mind shock value for shock value sometimes. But I was thinking about you're talking about Eat the Rich and like Saltburn and stuff. I was thinking about the film that we reviewed for the film festival, like Two Neighbors last year as well, like kind of has this similar sort of like vibe as well, but it just worked. I don't know. It's just like it worked better to me. And that was a
mhm,
debut feature, you know, uh, but it had kind of Saltburny vibes too, you know? And
yeah,
I give a lot of time for films that have all of these elements to them, and then you add these amazing actors, indie darlings, like you're saying, and then it just didn't. You know, it just it
maybe this one could have worked as a short. Maybe if it was 20 minutes and
yeah, maybe.
uh
I
yeah,
am getting into like Elle Fanning's like stuff right now, though. I mean, she's choosing really interesting films as well. You know,
yeah,
like I think all of those actors just by picking this film are choosing really and like an interesting film that could have worked. It just didn't
yeah.
come together for
Yeah, I
me.
think this one it's a bold swing, and maybe for most people it's a swing and a miss. But I think Elle Fanning, it's interesting you mentioned sentimental value because I guess there is a similarity in the performance that her character's kind of an outsider of a family
Yeah,
dynamic. So
true.
there's a bit of a comparison to be made there. And I think they're all like I can't really fault any of the performances, and the cinematography is great, but there is just something like I suppose like the characters are all quite shallow and materialistic and empty, and the film kind of is as well.
Yeah,
Um, and
I
that's
yeah, I just didn't get the drive of any. Like I didn't really understand, you know, the motivation of anyone in there. You know, like
yeah,
and that's
yeah,
where it was. And it just it felt like shock value for shock value, where it was like again, I'm not a huge Lanthimos, but like I think maybe yeah, if Yorgos had taken the script, he probably would have done something like wildly weird with it that would have just made it work a bit better. Not that I like all of his films. Like Kinds of Kindness, I really didn't love, didn't get. And
Well,
but
that was the last film. That was the last film that he made, written by this guy.
right. Well, there you go.
Yeah. So that
Yeah, but
that
I
makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I went back to Dogtooth and was like, I mean, this is sick, but like it works, like it's not, it's not always my cup of tea. I don't want to sit around watching a Lanthimos like film all the time, but it works. And this one just didn't work. It just didn't seem to gel, I guess.
Yeah. I haven't just seen it yesterday. I'm still kind of digesting it, I guess.
And you saw it in
But
the cinema, so it would have been like even more
yeah,
impactful.
it was like second row in the film house, just like it happening all in my face. But yeah, no, I think if I were to stick up for the film a little bit, I think the performances are good and the cinematography is beautiful. But maybe the less said about the script, the better.
Okay. Well, Rosebush Pruning, as someone said on Letterboxd, needed a lot of pruning. But see it if you dare. And it's out there. It is out there in the world, and we saw it. But yeah, well, that's our show. A lot of really interesting films currently out in cinema, and then we're about to come up to a really big month in Edinburgh. All arts, but particularly for us, the film festival is something we are excited about. There's a big film coming out this week. It'll come out, I think, the day that this is airing. We're doing this on the recording this on the Monday, but there's the Odyssey, which I don't know if you're excited about to see. Are you excited to see that, or any other films coming out that you really want to see?
Yeah. Well, with the Odyssey, I'm going to see it. I've got my ticket. I'm seeing it on Saturday afternoon in IMAX. Filmhouse are showing it in 70 mil.
Yeah, yeah.
I was tempted to go and see it there, but I thought for being Nolan and being filmed for IMAX, I'll see it on the biggest screen possible. For the most part, I like Christopher Nolan's films, but some of his films, like I wasn't sold on Tenet, and I'm not as big on Interstellar as a lot of people are. But like for the most part, I do like Nolan stuff, so I'm interested to see this one. And then I think the following week we've got Spider-Man, the latest Spider-Man. So it's a
Right.
big month for Zendaya and
I was
Tom
gonna say
Holland.
Tom Holland, yeah.
And then we'll be right into the thick of the film festival and amongst the Fringe as well next month. So yeah, lots of films to see once the football's over and done with.
The one thing we didn't even bring up about the invite, but you brought up about the Odyssey. Well, we mentioned briefly, but the invite was shot on 35 millimeter, and they did take this on quite a tour around classic cinemas, screening it on 35 millimeter. And the one thing that just gets me like into Nolan, I mean, he's a bit Burnsy, you know what I mean, sometimes, or Tom Cruisey with his like, film forever kind of thing. But I
Yeah.
love the 70 millimeter, 35 millimeter, like, tour of, I love that. And I love the element of that. And one of the highlights of of a few years ago was the Barbenheimer, when I was in Paris and I got to see it in the Rec, like one of the biggest cinemas I've ever been in, Cinema Rex, with 70 millimeter Oppenheimer. And I'll never forget that experience, So I really appreciate, and I just saw online the whole cast being in Paris, for that 70 millimeter of the Odyssey. So I'm excited for the cinema, even being in here in Miami, I'm seeing anyone who has like 35 millimeter, 70 millimeter showing it in that way and like getting people into this, into the cinema. So that's very exciting about it. And
Yeah.
I had way too much
Uh,
classics learning like in my life, so I don't remember much about the Odyssey, but I do feel like I'll remember it as it comes back to me in the film.
yeah.
But
A friend of mine is who's working closely with getting the Belmont cinema
all
in
right.
Aberdeen up and running. His name's Stuart Dallas King. He's going on his own Odyssey this week because he's going to he's seen it in IMAX at the BFI in London, and then seen it in 35mm in Dundee, and then in 70mm at the GFT in Glasgow, like within the space of a week or something like that. So it's like he's a crazy like format guy. So he's like going to devour it in all the different ways.
Did
For
he give
me,
you
so
a
far,
preview of what he thought did he like it?
he's
All that
he's not seen it yet. I think
oh
he's
yeah.
seen it.
Oh,
He's seen it on the release. There's like a midnight screening at the BFI and IMAX. So but yeah, so far I've only got tickets I've only got a ticket to see it once, but we'll see. Maybe I'll see it again if I love it. So
yeah. Well, we'll see. Yeah, I don't know if I can watch Matt Damon. I'm not that excited about the Matt Damon that's like, as Odysseus,
yes,
um, but I will like there is an art house cinema in Orlando that will have it on 70 mil, and they just upgraded to 70 mil. So that's exciting for them and exciting to see it there. So I'll be sure to go see it there. But yeah, so there's that, and then there's the Edinburgh International Film Festival, which we talked briefly about, but hopefully we'll talk again in the next coming month. So hopefully we'll see you then.
yep. Hopefully see you then. Hopefully you're back in Edinburgh in time for it, and we can get a glass of wine or something and chat film in person.
Yeah. All right. And we won't be at Ken Burns, but we'll be at maybe Kenneth Branagh's like talk or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
or the train spotting party at Lee Theater. But yeah, I will have a good month and see you later.
Great. Thanks very much. See you soon.